Okay, hey, Jacob, it's been a while. What was the last... we saw Tully a while ago. Now we're back, because summer happened. So we decided with Connor and his brother and some friends...
That was our first summer visit.
Oh, really? Was it? Okay, then I guess this is the continuing saga. So we decided to go see...
Face.
Yes, so we decided to go see Solo just because, I mean, like, we kind of just went and bought some stuff, and Solo was just sort of a thing we happened to also do. And, like, there's a very, like, its Rotten Tomatoes audience score is, like, super low right now. I think it's hovering around, like, 40. And, I can't remember what the critic is. I think it's kind of positive. Like, I don't really know what the general consensus on this movie is, but here's what I took away from it. I have never been so bafflingly indifferent on something in my entire life. Like, that movie was precisely what I expected with my low expectations. It was in no way bad. It wasn't poorly made. There was nothing about it that was even really, like, wrong in and of itself or done bad. It's just
Except
that when
the ending.
Yeah. When they coalesce together, it's just so not cohesive. Like, okay, the pacing was bad. The pacing in this is, like, straight up
You can't
terrible.
even call the pacing bad. It's non-existent.
Like, the first half of this movie, it's like I was seriously missing, like, the transition wipes, because it made you feel like time passed, whereas this movie cuts to, like, 7 different things in the first hour of just being like, Han's here, now he's here, now he's here, now he's here, and he's like... And something else that bugged me is that whenever he's doing something with, like, a group of people, and they never explain what their plan is. They're all just like, you know the plan? Yeah, I know the plan. And I'm like, what's the fucking plan? What are you all doing?
And they want us to, like, and they want us to think, oh no, Chewie's gonna die.
Oh yeah, they put all the characters in danger.
Like the final shot of one of the trailers was at the beginning of the movie when Chewie almost hit the rock.
And I mean, like, okay, let me get out of the way what I have positive to say about this movie, because it's like, there's not too much positive or even negative. I just want to say that so I can get out the way and complain.
My only positive is Donald Glover.
Okay, my first positive is the best part of the movie is that it looks really good. I was overall not a fan of how the Solo trailers looked because it looked boring. However, it did slightly prove me wrong. It just kind of looks dingy, and for a Han Solo movie that's supposed to be kind of dingy and underground, I think the look works. Ron Howard's always been pretty good with visuals. This is a very well-shot film. There's a lot of really, really good choreographed action scenes in it that are really great. Not Rogue One great, but great. I'd say all of the cast. Even, like, I was not feeling Alden Ehrenreich in the trailers, and he does a pretty solid Han Solo impersonation.
I thought he was really inconsistent. Like, I bought him as Han Solo in some of the scenes, and I didn't in others.
I think the problem really is more with his like, writing and dialogue. Like, I think Alden was good. It was just that they couldn't really make up their mind of what Han was, like. And, like, okay, yeah, Donald Glover's the best performance in the movie. The sad fact is that, like, you remember did you watch Chris's review?
Yeah.
Okay, well, he said that, like, Woody Harrelson wasn't in the movie much. Woody Harrelson was in, like, the entire movie. Donald Glover just, like, he's in, like, what, 5 scenes? And he's not even really that important in any of them. And one of them is straight up, like, I was so, like, with his robot, and it played all that sad music while he was, like, dragging it like it was a scene for Platoon. I was like, what the fuck is this tone?
Were we supposed to care about
the
robot?
I think so. I'm like, are you trying to imply that Donald Glover's been fucking that robot? Because I think that's what you're trying to imply, and it's really weird.
Oh,
But, like, and the tone in general in this movie is indecipherable. I was just like, am I supposed to be taking this seriously? Like, I mean, the first half is pretty lighthearted.
The filmmakers, like, confirmed before the movie came out, oh, Lando is pansexual.
What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
Well, because he's fucking the robot.
Well, yeah, but what does it have to do with anything just because it's not a part of, like... Like, Lando didn't go up and, like, kiss a guy in this movie, so why do they say shit like that? It's like, you can't just say that your characters are gay in retrospect, because it doesn't fucking matter. You could do that about anything. You could say that Luke was gay. It doesn't mean anything if he doesn't see it. It's stupid. But, like, again, I'm frustrated because I feel like there's a good movie trying to get out here, and I feel like they kept parts of the Phil Lord and Christopher Miller movie and just... It's kind of like Ant-Man, but to a worse extent. Because, like, I feel like most of Ant-Man was intact even when Edgar Wright left. It just wasn't as visually interesting as he would have made it. This, on the other hand, like, here's the worst part of the movie. Hands down. The comedy. Like, we weren't the only ones either. Like, with every joke, one person in the theater laughed. It was always, like, the same lady. Like, every joke, it would just be like, ugh, and then you hear, haha.
Okay, the comedy for me is the second worst part. The worst part for me is, spoiler alert.
Okay, wait.
But,
let's wait till the end for that. Because that's amazing.
Because it's like, this film only made me laugh once, but it wasn't intentional.
No!
Because the ending to this film is so terrible that it was
the ending
hilarious.
The ending is fucking hilarious. Like, whenever I laughed at this movie, I laughed one time, and it's because Donald Glover is funny.
I didn't laugh once in this whole movie except the ending. I was so bored.
It was like, okay, people, shit talk the comedy in The Last Jedi all you want. This is a wasteland. Nothing hits. Any humor in this movie is done on complete accident, I assure you. You can see where funnier people, if it was executed better, you could tell where it might be funny, but like,
See, like, it's another, like, this is gonna be a really weird comparison.
Of course.
But, like, it's like how when James Gunn wrote the Scooby-Doo films, on, like, paper, some of the jokes were fine, but because it was Roger Gosnell who directed
That is a great thing, because you're right. Like, I wouldn't even say that the writing in this movie is bad either. I mean, like, I guess the worst other than pacing, I think the worst technical part just might be how it's edited. Like, in a scene-by-scene basis, it's fine. It's how it transitions from scene to scene. It was like fucking Batman v Superman. It was just like, people were just here in places doing things. Like, when it cut from Han saying goodbye to fucking Daenerys Targaryen, and then he got taken away, and then suddenly he was like fighting in an Imperial war, and I was like, all right.
There were several instances in the late 90s where Disney was planning on making a television series based on one of their hit animated films, but then they realized the show was terrible, canceled at the last minute, and then stitched together the 4 to 5 episodes they had finished into a movie and called it a sequel. I feel like that's what this movie is.
That is what it feels like.
Because, like, if this was just 5 or 7 10-minute short films...
Yeah, like, again, it's just one of those things where it's like, every, like, individual aspect of the movie is pretty alright.
But when you stitch them together, it's like,
no.
What the fuck?
And, like, I'm not sure what the point of Woody Harrelson's character was.
Did he have a purpose?
I loved how his girlfriend straight up died in the beginning of this movie, and he got over it, like, so quickly. It was like it never even happened. Never once brought up again. He's never sad again. Just fucking...
Hey, hold on. Is it just me, or did I miss something? Because I could have sworn it was Woody Harrelson that trapped Han in the pit with Chewie, but then 2 seconds later, he calls Harrison Ford Woody Harrelson his friend.
Well, yeah, that was just... he was just saying that to get on the ship, because he didn't want to worry Chewie.
But Woody Harrelson acts as though he's never seen him before when he's on the ship's perspective.
Yeah, I know. Han was just saying that so Chewie wouldn't worry.
Maybe
you were probably asleep. I don't blame you.
Yeah, I have no memory of the first 10 minutes of this film.
I'm genuinely struggling to remember part of it. This is the same way I was with Ready Player One. This movie is not that bad, by the way. Like, I am definitely, like, my complaints are just, they're very definitive. It's not like an experience that I wholeheartedly hated or didn't even really not enjoy. I mean, I kind of enjoyed myself, but it was mainly because I was laughing at the movie, not with the movie. But, like, okay, fine, I get it. This movie's not supposed to be, like, big or important or whatever. But, like, I don't know. I just feel like Rogue One did such of a better job of just being a contained movie. Say all you want about the characters in that movie being paper thin, or just how it's kind of narratively unsatisfying, whatever. But, like, it's something is there. There is, like, I can get something out of that experience. This, I just feel like I saw the first draft of a movie.
Okay, well, if the characters in Rogue One are paper thin, which I guess they are, the characters in this movie are like paper dolls. Like, there's nothing to them.
Like, like, Woody Harrelson does exactly what you expect. Fucking Emilia Clarke's character, I have, like, just because of the ending, like, I was fine with her 90% of the movie, and then the last, like, couple minutes, I was like, wait, what now?
What the fuck?
And I also do have a problem with, like, them constantly having to explain and show shit, because I just, like, keep some of the mystery in Star Wars. Like, having to explain why Han Solo's last name is Solo just seems like the most retarded thing I've ever... Like, they were just like, oh, well, we gotta explain it because it's Solo, because he's on his own, get it? I'm like, I don't think... And then they do actually show the Kessel Run in this. And I'm not that much of a fucking lore nerd that it, like, genuinely bothers me, but it's like, why can't we just have something that's referred to in these movies and not explained? It's just like when they were fucking like, oh, we're gonna do the Clone Wars in the prequels, just because Alec Guinness said the words, the Clone Wars, in one line in the first movie.
You mean Mark Hamill?
Oh, sure. But still, I don't know why that kept having to happen.
Well, I mean, like, and I noticed, we were talking about this before we hit recording, like, part of the design of the Millennium Falcon is there's, like, a bird beak thing on the outside, and we actually see in the Kessel Run the piece that
breaks off.
That breaks off to make the bird beak.
Yeah.
And it's like, thanks, movie, we really cared.
Yeah, it's like this thing that you suddenly said was important. I'm glad it's just meaningless.
Not only do they explain why Han Solo's last name is Solo, Woody Harrelson is just like, you know, you need a surname, kid. I'll call you Solo because you're on your own. They explain why Han Solo refers to Chewbacca as Chewie.
It's because, it's too long. Let's call him Chewie. It's like, yeah, I got that. Thanks. Just call him Chewie and I'll understand. But thank you for spoon feeding me this information.
Theophrastus Bombastus. That's too long.
This fucking movie, like, this felt more like it was made for kids than like any other Star Wars movie that isn't the Clone Wars.
Phantom Menace.
No, not even Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace had shit in it that was like, well, that movie's not made for kids because it's a bunch of boring political shit. This movie is like, we have to make sure that everyone knows what's happening all the time, and it's amazing because I still didn't really know what was happening.
But before we get to the political shit in Phantom Menace, there's a scene of a cartoon rabbit stepping in poop.
That's just because George Lucas doesn't know how to write. That's not because it's made for kids. It's just because they don't know what they're doing. Like, this is far better than the prequels. That make no mistake.
Like, the biggest compliment I can give this film is that it's better than Revenge of the Sith.
Yes. It's like, it doesn't, like, nothing about this movie makes me, like, really all that angry. It's really just more like, really, guys?
The ending makes me angry.
The ending doesn't make me angry. I'm just fucking, like, confused. Okay, we're gonna cut the shit. This is the spoiler. This is the spoiler section. Please go away. I mean, like, this is... If nothing, really don't listen to this next part until you've seen the movie. Because I want everyone who sees the end to not have I don't want them to know a goddamn thing. Just so they can be like, what? Spoilers! Cut. Okay. So Darth Maul is in the film. Which, in and of itself, not a problem. I know, he's alive. Saw it in the Clone Wars. He's a lot better in that than he is in the Phantom Menace. Okay, fine. You want to bring him in? That's fine. That's cool. It's one scene. He still has more dialogue than he does in the Phantom Menace, which is fucking hysterical, by the way. It's one scene.
We'll reveal ourselves to the Jedi.
He comes up as a hologram and is talking to Han's love interest, who was secretly a double agent the whole time, and was actually working for Darth Maul for... I have no fucking idea what he's doing in the movie. Like, okay, she was working for Darth Maul. Okay, what's Darth Maul doing? What's happening? Why is he there? Why is he your boss? What the fuck?
Is
This
she-
makes no sense. And that's the thing, is that this happens at the ass end of the movie, and I thought, like, oh, okay, are we gonna go and, like, is Han gonna confront her and feel, like, really betrayed, and that's what makes him turn into more of a loner? No! It just ends, he just goes and gets the shit from Lando and then leaves, and then the movie's over, and I'm like...
And then he goes to meet up with Jabba the Hutt and Boba Fett.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so then, does that, like, I don't know what it meant! Like, why? Why'd you do it? Like, at least in Infinity War, when the fucking Red Skull popped up, it was so, like, it was random and stupid and silly, but it didn't mean anything, so I didn't care. I was just like, what the fuck? This, on the other hand, I'm like, what, is this supposed to be fan service? Like, why? If I really, like, I turned to Connor and Jacob and was like, I want to know what the reaction of the people who haven't watched the Clone Wars series is to this, because they straight up don't know he's alive. They think he's still dead, and he shows up with his stupid little robot feet.
Yeah. Yes, because the last time we saw him, Ewan McGregor cut him in half and he fell down a pit.
Yeah, it's like, if you don't watch the Clone Wars show, you're just like, what?
And it's like, it's not on them for not watching the Clone Wars, because the Clone Wars is a show on Cartoon Network.
Well, it's a show on Cartoon Network that deliberately told its story out of order. Like, I don't blame people for not getting into the show, because it's fucking ass backwards.
Yeah, episode 1 of the Clone Wars is in the middle of season 2.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good show. Don't get me wrong. It's far better than the material that was coming out with the prequels. It is definitively the best thing that came from those movies.
Well, the other Clone Wars show.
Well, yeah, I sort of I lump them together, sort of. But yes,
The
the
only bad thing-
Tartakovsky cartoon is the best thing.
The only good thing, or the only terrible thing about the Clone Wars is the theatrical movie.
Yeah.
Because,
Oh, speaking of terrible, worst Star Wars villain, like, ever. I say that because he was barely a villain. Guys, Paul Bettany is a good actor. Stop wasting him. He is nothing in this movie. Like, I was wondering, like, why the fuck didn't they just have him be Jabba the Hutt? Like, I get it. It would have been like, oh, well, they're doing fan service. At least it would be like, it would make some sense. I don't care. It would be better than having this vanilla-ass, forgettable villain who does nothing of intimidation this entire movie. Like, it cuts to right after he's done killing someone, and it's just because he, like, stabbed them. Like, ooh, so scary.
What about the other villain that wasn't Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One?
Well, that succeeds on merit of the fact that it was Ben fucking Mendelsohn. And Ben Mendelsohn is a badass. Paul Bettany should not be playing a villain that, well, nobody could play this guy. He's so boring. He doesn't even have the opportunity to overact like Ben Mendelsohn. He's got nothing. He's just like, I'm a crime boss.
We know what Han Solo's backstory needed to be in this film. Donald Glover says to him, go hide in the bunker and Forrest Whitaker will come get you.
I would have pissed myself. And also, another thing I want to talk about is the music. Half of this movie's soundtrack is really, really good. Like, I have a problem with Rogue One in the sense that the Giacchino's score for it does sound like stock Star Wars music. Like, you listen to it and it's just off enough. Here, on the other hand, it was new compositions, but it felt in place. And then the choir happened. And I was like, I'm sorry?
I'm a fan of choir music when done properly.
Yeah.
But, oh my god.
Like, it was just normal Star Wars music, and then it was like, ah! Like, and it wasn't like Duel of the Fates, John Williams shit. It was like, tribal? It sounded so weird. It had nothing to... Oh, also, fucking Star Wars Desert Planet number 3. Guys, I hate to sound like Doug complaining about Interstellar, but it's Star Wars! Show us a more visually interesting planet! It's just a desert, except it has a little beach!
Wasn't there also another desert planet somewhere sprinkled into Rogue One?
Yes, there was, so that's actually number 4. God damn it. Like, guys, there's more planets. You could, like, that's something that the Clone Wars TV series did great, is showing, like, all of these crazy-ass cool planets.
And technically the prequels did too?
Yeah, but they were all kind of ugly.
Like, the only desert planet in the prequels was a returning planet from the original
Yeah, it was
trilogy.
Tatooine, which is necessary. I don't... This movie's just a giant missed opportunity.
Why did you fire the Lego movie guys?
I mean, at least they would have made me laugh a bit more. This was...
And they would have...
God, what a comedic just...
And considering the ending to the Lego movie, they would have pulled out a cool ending and not Darth Maul.
That was like... I really feel like this movie came out to satisfy butthurt fanboys. Like, that's just what this movie feels like to me. It's really like...
Oh, and also...
I would say it's fan service-y, but it's not. It's just got like a couple instances where it throws the audience a really weird bone.
Oh, and also... Chewie and Han showered together? That is not
yes,
canon.
That is canon. Chewie and Han have showered in the same place at the same time.
Take that both in context and out of context.
I'm just so upset that this was a Star Wars movie. Because if it wasn't, I just wouldn't care. Like, it would just be like, oh, it was a fine sci-fi action movie.
Okay. So, if... They announced the Boba Fett movie.
Yeah.
Considering Han's connection with Boba Fett and Jabba the Hutt, do you think Emilia Clarke's story will continue in the Boba Fett movie?
God, I fucking hope not. Just because, like, that is such a loose end. Like, they could only be hoping to tie that up with a sequel.
Like Solo 2?
Because it just... Which is, again, that is the stupidest fucking title. Solo, meaning 1, 2.
Solo... No, even better. Solo 2, a Star Wars story. They're going to put a Star Wars...
That was so odd. Like, yes, the pacing is bad, but I would have forgiven it if they had just tried to resolve that plot line. Instead, Han was just like, he didn't even act like he missed her or anything. It was just like, bye.
And then all of a sudden he just kills Woody Harrelson.
Well, that was good because he was starting to fucking monologue. And with movies like this, I always wonder why you just don't fucking shoot them while they're talking.
You got me monologuing.
I mean, Woody Harrelson in this movie is one giant stretched out version of Benicio del Toro in The Last Jedi.
Except worse?
Yes! It's because he's stretched out over the whole movie! Benicio del Toro in The Last Jedi is in like 10 minutes of that movie, so it doesn't matter when it's just like, oh, I betrayed you. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. And it doesn't like bother you because there wasn't a lot of time spent on it. Here, Woody Harrelson is like a solid 20% of the entire fucking movie!
And not only that, but he was a combination of Benicio del Toro and Harrison Ford from the first Star Wars.
Yeah, he was just like, oh, well, I leave, kid. And not to mention, I just don't get Han's character arc. Like, I'm not even sure if he had a complete one, but it's just like, oh, I'm a good guy now, and then he decides to be a smuggler and go off on his own. It's like, after the events of what happened in this movie, you should be a bona fide good guy. Like, when the good guys who were like, oh, we're starting the rebellion, asked him to join, I was like...
Where the fuck did they come
That
from?
That was my favorite moment in the entire movie, when that girl fucking took her helmet off, and it was like, she's a girl, dramatic music sting! And it was only because she was a girl! That's the only reason that dramatic music sting happened, and I was like...
I thought the dramatic music...
What?
I thought the dramatic music sting happened was because we were supposed to be shocked as if we've seen her before.
No! It was purely because she was a woman! And I'm like, did Star Wars just become implicitly sexist with editing? That's fucking impressive! It was just so strange. It was just like, oh, I'm just bad guy. Bloop. Ah! It's like, I don't know this person. I don't know what they're doing.
Okay, not only that, but remember the very tail beginning of the film, they mentioned the Zam sisters or whatever. Does that mean like the bounty hunter Zam Wessel from Attack of the Clones?
That very well could be. Man, I just don't know what... Like, it just feels like everybody was intruding on someone else's movie. Like, it felt like Han and Chewie were intruding on, like, Woody Harrelson and Emilia Clarke and Paul Bettany's movie, and then the Rebel fighters felt like they were interrupting on, like, a Star Wars Rebels episode. And not to mention, like, when we complain about all these things, we're making this movie sound way more interesting than it actually is. Like, it's baffling how it has all of these things inside of it and how it's, like...
You know,
Okay.
In the Half in the Bag episode for the Amazing Spider-Man 2, Rich Evans made a joke and that I think applies to here, where he's like, I feel like the studio didn't know where to take the sequel, so they had like 5 different screenplays written up, and at the end, and on the way to bring the screenplays to the boss, the intern tripped and he fell.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all the pages flew everywhere, and he started putting them into one big pile.
Like, this, like, cohesively, like, I don't even, like... I couldn't identify the structure of this movie if you fucking paid me, because it's like, every time they switch scenes, it's so quick, and they all change, and all these characters have these agendas that you have no idea about. In the end, it's like, everybody keeps double-crossing people, and it just means nothing because you don't know why. And then Emilia Clarke's character is just a complete fucking mystery, and then she works for Darth Maul, who is doing...
Oh, and...
Like, am I supposed to know what he's doing because I saw him in the Clone Wars? And Rebels? Because I don't.
Okay, I know this might sound really weird, but, like, I'm willing to bet $10 that if Christopher Lee were still alive, it would have been Count Dooku cameoing in Solo instead of Darth Maul.
It can. He's dead.
Well, like, this takes place before Revenge of the Sith, though.
Does it?
I'm pretty sure.
I thought it was after. Because the Empire doesn't happen until the end of Revenge of the Sith. Like, they were straight up Imperial officers when Han was... Like, Han conscripted into the military. So it had to have been after. Like, they had the little, like, admiral marks and everything that the soldiers don't get until the Empire's formed.
Yeah,
so, yeah, he's dead, but...
Was Emilia Clarke Ventress, then?
No! Why would she... I mean, like, we'd know if she was Ventress. You don't know who Ventress is, do you?
Some bald, bad chick.
Yeah, she's an alien. She's not a human.
I've only seen, like, 3 episodes of the Clone Wars.
Then why would she be Ventress?
I don't...
She's dead.
I didn't remember she was an alien. I thought she was human.
She's dead as hell.
I haven't seen that episode.
I just don't know. I just don't know.
I hope Emilia Clarke in Solo 2, A Star Wars Story, gets space dragons.
Where are my dragons? And I mean, she's fine in this movie. Alden Ehrenreich is fine in this movie.
Until the
Woody
end.
Harrelson's... I mean, well, her acting, like, it's all fine. It's all good. Ehrenreich does a solid job as a young Han Solo. I bought him enough. I mean, he does kind of act like he's putting on his dad's boots, but I get it.
Donald Glover's
the most consistent one, and he's in the movie less than everyone. Like, Woody Harrelson is in this movie so much more than he is, and I'd have no idea why.
Because he was left over from when the Lego movie team were fired.
Yeah, I guess.
Because, like, literally anybody could have played Woody Harrelson's part.
There is, like, I could tell that they were going for a character who, like, on paper you'd think, yes, Woody Harrelson could play this character. But in execution, he's so bland, I'm just like, I don't know, I could have fucking played this part.
So, like,
Also, when his girlfriend blew herself up, did that need to happen? Like, why did she do that? Like, the railway was blasted. How did she know that they all weren't going to die?
And if the space pirates that were chasing them at the beginning were secretly the little girl that was a rebel...
Yeah, they were.
So, like, why were they being dicks, then?
Because the script wanted to have a twist where it could go, oh my god, it's a girl, it's a WOM!
And instantly, as soon as she pulls the mask off, no longer the space pirates are gone. We're with the rebellion now.
Yeah, I know, I'm just like, this was just for the sake of a twist. That's really fucking lazy.
Was this written by Shyamalan?
No, because the twist would have been stupider, but it also would have been more entertaining. The twist here is just like, oh.
Okay, well, this movie did have 2 twists, the Darth Maul one.
That's not even a twist, that's just a stupid reveal.
Okay. The funny thing was, though, if you had not gotten spoiled that Darth Maul was in the movie, how would you have reacted?
That's why I want to take Morgan to see this film.
You have to bring me with you when you do.
I will at least film his reaction if you're not with us. Like, I will deadass take out my phone in the middle of the theater and record his facial reaction.
And just ignore him.
It'll basically be what my reaction was when the Red Skull showed up in Infinity War, because he knew and I didn't. But I was just like, what? I just...
Fuck this movie.
Not even fuck this movie. It's like, fuck this movie for being, like... it's a movie that is so much less than the sum of its parts.
It's trying
Because it has great cinematography, it has good performances, it has great special effects,
and it also has really bland cinematography.
And occasionally, usually in just the shot stuff. Everything else is pretty impressive. Just like all of these things are good, so it just baffles me that the movie isn't.
I am so surprised that YMS only gave this a 5.
I know, this was such an inconsequential movie. It just kind of confirms to me that he doesn't pay attention to Star Wars movies, so he just doesn't care. So when something is like this, it's just like, oh, it feels like Star Wars.
No, but I mean, like...
At least you can hate The Last Jedi all you want. At least that movie is a film. It's a movie. This is like somebody mashed together all of the trailers to a movie and got all of the footage from it, and it was just like, here.
So, I wonder what the deleted scenes are.
I just wonder what was cut. I just wonder what this movie was before, because it was 90% done. They scrapped all of that.
So this was another Justice League.
Yes, but far less of a disaster.
Because it's like, oh, Joss Whedon, I'm going to come in, and instead of just finishing where Zack Snyder left off...
I give DC more credit, because it happened because Zack Snyder suffered a horrible tragedy. This was just because Kathleen Kennedy was like, nah. It's like, bitch, just because you didn't like it doesn't mean you should scrap 90% of your movie.
Like, the world doesn't revolve around you.
That is such a bad idea.
The world doesn't revolve around you, Kathleen. Like, just because you don't like a movie doesn't mean everyone's gonna.
And it's like, alright, sure, it's like, every movie is made for money. I have no illusions about that. Star Wars, from the beginning, has been nothing about money. George Lucas has been making decisions that are all about money since the original fucking trilogy. It has never, ever bothered me. It bothers me here because somebody made something that was an actual movie and then it was deleted for the sake of this. That genuinely bothers me.
Yeah,
Like, this is the most 5 out of 10 movie I have seen in a long-ass time.
I'd go as far as 4.5 out of 10.
I understand. I mean, it's just 5 because, again, only a couple things about it I would truly call bad, but they don't even drag down the movie. I don't know. I feel like if you gave me this movie's, footage, I could have cobbled together something a bit more coherent.
I would have cut out the Darth Maul bit.
Unquestionably. I just don't know what that was supposed to resolve.
And that actually was Ray Park.
And it was Sam Witwer from the Clone Wars doing the fucking voice.
Oh, wait a minute. They actually got this 2 separate people to do the
that was Ray Parker, and the voice was Sam Witwer. Like, straight up, that was not Ray Parker's voice. That was absolutely him from the Clone Wars.
Because Ray Park did the voice for the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, on all one of his lines. He was in the Phantom Menace. He was in one scene in this movie and he had more lines. I can't fucking believe that.
Because the entire lightsaber fight in Phantom Menace, he doesn't have a single line.
Here's why I won't go below a 5. Because at the end of the day, though, this movie is so inoffensive. There's just nothing about it that, if I didn't like The Last Jedi, I would still respect it for having the balls to do some interesting things. This movie has the opposite of balls. It has nothing. Has no courage. It doesn't want to do anything interesting, but simultaneously, it really doesn't do anything that poorly either. So I can't even really be that mad at it. It's just there. It's like complaining about the fact that air isn't visible.
Well, I mean, it does conjured together its scenes in a narrative structure poorly.
Yeah, but not poorly enough to be incoherent. It's just coherent enough.
Not when Woody Harrelson, no, don't blow yourself up. Okay,
that's not bad coherence. That's bad writing.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's instances of these things. It's not like an overall problem. It's just like, here there's a problem. There's a problem. It's not like a huge problem. It's just instances of smaller problems. It's a death by 1,000 cuts.
You could have watched Mr. Robot Season 2 instead tonight.
Yeah. I mean, Morgan and I predicted this just front and center. I'm not surprised in any way other than the ending, just because I couldn't believe they'd do something that silly.
This is by far the worst Disney Star Wars film.
Oh my god, unquestionably. Like, no. This isn't even in the same, like, Rogue One, it was the weakest before this, and this movie, like, that is leagues above this.
Some people say Rogue One's the best Disney Star Wars film.
They are wrong. If you want to talk about which is the best movie, like, which is the best solidly constructed, well-made, consistently good movie, it's The Force Awakens. That being said...
a clone of A New Hope.
Well, yeah, that's why it's that good. And for as much as I love The Last Jedi, and it's absolutely my favorite Star Wars movie, it does have problems, and it is less, like, technically good than the other movie. I will say Last Jedi, I think, is vastly better visually speaking, even though I love the visuals in The Force Awakens. And I guess the visuals were my favorite part of this movie, other than Donald Glover. Like, it was... the environments it conjured up were pretty interesting. Except for going back to that fucking desert planet. Like, can we get, like, a jungle or something? Like, please? Just no more fucking sand! We've had enough sand memes in Star Wars! I'm tired of the fucking sand!
I have a question. Okay, shouldn't we theoretically get to know Alderaan before they blow it up? Why have we not seen Alderaan in a single one of the films that take place before A New Hope?
I got nothing. That's a really good question. And all we know about Alderaan is that Jimmy Smits was there. That's it. That's it. They don't show it in Revenge of the Sith. It's just Jimmy Smits is like, I'm the Alderaan boy. I'm going to take the baby.
Alderaan should have been Naboo in The Phantom Menace.
Pretty much. Anyway, this movie's fine. Whatever. 5 out of 10. Who cares?